So if you're Betfair trading, you must at some point have looked at a chart, especially if you're trading horse racing pre-off. But what are they? Just a bunch of squiggly lines, or do they actually contain information? Because over my career, I went from trading short-term financials and being a bit of a skeptic on a variety of different charting methods to actually being somebody that uses them every day when I'm looking at horse racing. And if you want to understand why and what I'm seeing in those charts, just watch the rest of this video. So if you're from a traditional betting background, you probably just want to stick a tenner on something and then hope that it wins. But when we're talking about charts, and it's important to explain this to people who come from that background, the reason that we're talking about charts is when you look at any sports event, the odds move slightly over the course of event, or in the case of horse racing, they move quite a lot. And if you're trading those odds, what you can actually do is buy and sell them and lock in a profit regardless of what happens in the underlying event. So that's why this video is about charting, because we're going to chart the odds that we see within any particular market. And our intention is that we're going to buy and sell those odds in order to make a profit regardless of what happens in the underlying sport itself. If you're unfamiliar with this concept, go and check it out, because it's an absolutely fascinating area of betting markets that a lot of people are completely unaware of. So let's start by having an understanding of what charts are and what they are not. And, you know, that leads you in to understand exactly how you can use them reliably, because when I traded short-term on financials, there was always some sort of amazing chart indicator that you should use, and this stochastic and what we'll call it is in conjunction with Uranus, and, you know, all of a sudden, it was like, what? And it's very difficult to actually understand the logic of what went behind some of those things. And as a consequence, I think a lot of them were pretty ineffective. But when we're looking at Betfair trading, especially pre-off horse racing, what the chart is representing is all of the activity within that particular market. And if you look a little bit closer, you can really begin to understand exactly sort of what is going on and specifically why. But it's also important to understand that what you're looking at on a chart is historical data. You're looking at price action that has occurred. You're not looking at, I think what I'm trying to say here is there's a tendency to extrapolate trends. So, you know, if you see a price going up and up and up, people tend to jump on the back of it, or going down and down and down, people jump on the back of that. But you've got to understand that what you're looking at on a chart is everything that has occurred so far. And what you're trying to do as a trader is you're trying to anticipate what the price action will be based upon all of the information that's in front of you. But the good thing is, you know, there are lots of clues that the charts give you as to what's going on within a market, because also in a betting market, very different from a financial market. Because when you look at a financial market, it's a continuous market. It has no start and no end. It just continues forever. You know, if you look at a commodity like gold, you know, the price will move in one particular direction or move in another, but there is no end point in that particular market. It's not like the 230 at Kempton, when you will definitely have an end point. So it's important to understand from that perspective as well, how that influences what happens on sports markets. It's very, very different from what you see in financials. The two don't particularly cross over, and therefore we need to sort of, you know, focus specifically on sports market and understand how that influences what you see on the screen. But it's also important to understand that there are different types of charts that you can look at, because that will influence exactly how you interpret exactly what you're seeing. So for many years, people would use Betfair charts. These are the sort of charts that you would have seen very often. And they were okay. They give you an indication of what was happening, but there was a key fundamental flaw with them, which is that the first left-hand side of the chart was activity since the market was open, and the right-hand side of the chart was activity in the last 15 minutes or so. So you got very distorted views, but they were generally helpful in terms of giving you a general idea of what had happened. Betfair upgraded those in 2025, and they became a bit more representative, because you can now split the chart between sort of a minute, 3 minutes, 5, an hour, 3 hours, or the entire life of that particular chart. And that gives you a little bit of a better overview of exactly what is going on. But the best charts that you can use are ones that you create yourself, which is why within Betangel we have the advanced charting. And that allows you to create a chart of whatever you want. It could be the market data that Betangel is collecting. It could be information that you have created or transposed within automation to come up with some sort of indicator or key information. You can actually plot that on a chart and show all of that information. And you can also go backwards and zoom in and out and look at stuff in detail. So if something interesting happens within the market, you can actually go back, have a look at it and zoom in to see exactly what caused the thing that you saw, which is why they're incredibly beneficial. Now, I could go on for ages about all of the individual facets of these charts, but I have done a half-hour video talking about how to set up these charts and stuff that you can do with it. So that's not really for this video. This video is for more focusing on a basic chart and looking at that information to understand exactly what it's telling you. So yeah, go and check out that video if you want to know how to set up Betangel charts, because they are brilliant. They will do everything that you want. But let's have a look at some of the charts and understand exactly what they're trying to tell us. So to start with, I'm going to explain a very simple chart to you. I would encourage you to make sure that you use a chart that's unique to you, because that will give you an interesting angle on the market. And there are loads you can download from the forum. But this chart is one I post very often, and it contains some interesting information in a simplified format, which is why I'm going to use it. The red line is the last traded price. That's just basically plotting what money is being traded within the market and at what price. And you can see that we've also plotted the average price. That just gives you a general trend to look at to understand where the market is going. That is surrounded by the price envelope. This is 2 standard deviations of the average price. It's plotting volatility. And then at the bottom, we actually have the volume bars. This tells you how much money is being traded at that particular price. But you can also see what we've added on here as well is the average volume, because that will give you an indication to the overall activity that you're seeing in the market. But this is the chart we're going to use to explain a few basic things for you. So the thing that stands out on this particular chart is fairly obvious, and that is it's a volume spike. And a volume spike very often indicates and signals the start of a trend. Basically what you're seeing here is a large order goes into the market, it takes out a few prices, and that really kicks off a trend in one direction or the other. Could go up or could go down, but as soon as you see the volume spike, that's a good indication that somebody wants to do something either back or lay, and that will start to push the price in one predominant direction. So what you're seeing in this chart pattern is fairly consistent backing. The price has been coming in for a little while. We see a back order through the market, so there's a clear indication here that somebody did want to back this. The price continues to come in, so we can see this momentum developing, and then we see another back order appear in the market within here. I mean, basically what you're looking at here is the price is coming in anyway, and you're looking for evidence that that's going to continue. And when you see these additional back orders within the market, that indicates that that trend will continue. And we can tell that these are back orders because we see the volume going through the market and the price being pulled in. So here's a good example of somebody trying to get a large order filled. You can see a large back order go into the market. That moves the price significantly, and then it flatlines a bit. And what I've done in this video is I've included, not of this exact race, the ladder interface showing you this actually happening. And what you can see here is the price comes in, it flatlines for a little bit, and then another order comes in and pushes the price further down. So you sort of sit in front of this particular order and wait for that order or that person to get the amount filled that they want to. They're desperate to get on, and that sits in the market. Now, when they've got most of the order filled, or they've got nearly all of their order filled, you get this like residual amount left in the market, which you can see on the volume bar, but also you can see the price flatlining. And eventually what will happen is as their order gets filled, then the price will stop coming in and just gently drift back out again. So yeah, you know, watch or rewatch this if necessary, but you can see me actually trading this on the ladder and then slowly exiting the position as that residual order has filled and the price is about to start drifting out. So here's exactly the same thing, but on the lay side. So you can see a lay order come in here. We know it's a lay order because we can see the volume spike. We can see the effect that it's had on the price. But if you look at the ladder interface, you'll probably see a large volume sat there waiting to get filled, which is what you can see on the ladder interface that I've inserted on this video. Again, it's not the same market. It's an illustration of that type of trade. But we can also see that there's a second lay order in here where the person is attempting to get filled. On this particular chart, it sent the market into a bit of a tailspin, but nonetheless, our ability to be able to read it allows us to see that it's a lay order, but we can also see very clearly in this particular occasion the order on the ladder. So you do need charts, I can tell you this, because when you look at the ladder, it will tell you where the price is trading at the moment, but it won't tell you how it got there. So you can see money above and below the ladder, but you don't know if it went in one direction only or it meandered around there, did it slow, fast, whatever. That's important information. It can give you a clue as to what's going on within the market. But it's also important to realize that the way that charts behave in sports is very different from financials, because financials are continuous, there's no end point, whereas the end point on pre-off horse racing, for example, is post time. That's when everybody has to make their decision, and as a consequence, the volume increases over time as we get to that particular point. And what you're looking at when you see a large order go through the market is how big is that order relative to the volume at that particular moment in time. Because that is the most significant thing. Volume will rise over time, but at any one particular moment on that journey, a large order will be significant if it's followed by volume. So if you see a large order and it pulls the price in one direction, you would count that as being significant. But the interesting thing, and the other thing that you must do, is that when you're looking at the chart and you're seeing stuff unfolding and happening, before you do anything, you turn to the ladder, you look at the order flow on the ladder, and that's where you make your final decision about what to do. You sort of think, this chart is interesting, it's showing this, or I think it's showing this. And then you turn to order flow on the ladder and you look at where the orders are coming in and out of the market, and then you go, and that confirms it. And that is when you place your trade. It's a combination of the two. It's a combination of order flow and price action will get you the key information that you need and the ability to pick off those decent trades. Some charts are easier to read than others. And when we look at this particular chart, there's nothing that really stands out in the volume bars. Nothing really tells us what's going on. But what I can see in this chart is that there is no real backing within this particular market. So the market isn't particularly active on this horse. There's nobody really going for it. And as a consequence, it's on a gentle drift within the market. So we have a little bit of an anomaly early on where the price sort of moved dramatically, but you can see underneath there's no real volume that followed that through. So it's definitely not actively being laid. However, we can look at the longer term trend and we can see, if we look at the volume and we look at the price activity, we can tell that there is no real backing on this. So this is a market where if you were on the lay side and you're looking for the price to drift, you'd feel reasonably comfortable. You wouldn't feel under threat from any other activity that you can see in the market. So given what you've learned already, what can you see within this chart? It's a fairly obvious signal, one of the clearer ones that you will see. But what you can actually see if we highlight it on this chart is that there is a large layer in the market. They put a large order in, they're trying to get that order filled. A big chunk of that order has been filled, but it's sat there on the ladder waiting to get matched. And that's why it's flatlining at its current price. If they move that within the market, then the price will continue to drift, or they could just leave it at its current price and wait for that order to get filled. So let's have a look at this chart. What can you see in this chart? When we look at the volume, are we seeing anything outstanding in there, or does this look sort of fairly regular and within our expectation? Is that correlated to any of the price action that we can see in the chart above it? And what's the general direction that we're seeing within this market? So if you're looking at this chart and you're saying to me, well, I can't see anything, Peter, you are absolutely spot on, because we're looking here at a competitive handicap. It's priced at sixes. The rest of the field will be at bigger prices. And there's a general level of uncertainty within this market. So any trading you do in this market would be within the traded range in which you can see. You can't see any particular bias on the back or the lay side within this market, and that is normal for a competitive handicap. If you want a market that's trending, where the charts are much more effective, then you would tend to look at novices and maidens, but you would also look at any particular race where the price of the favourite is relatively short, maybe slightly odds on, maybe slightly odds against. That's where you tend to see a lot of movement, and it's easier to interpret the charts. But when you're looking at a competitive handicap, the market sort of just jiggles up and down, generally moves sideways, but very often doesn't have a strong bias. And that is what you're seeing in this chart. So when you're looking at the one-click screen, the advanced charting, you can find over here, and on the ladder you can find it over here. But you can also bring up the enhanced ladder, which displays charting to the right hand side edge. So that can be particularly helpful. But you could also display this information as well as bring up another chart if you wanted to. So if we bring up the chart of Dazzle like this, we can sort of move that somewhere else around the screen. We can pin that, resize it, and do all of those sort of things. But of course the advantage, or one of the advantages, there are many, that you've got with Betangel charting, is that you can actually sort of scroll and zoom out and in to have a look at some bigger trends. And it's more likely to be on the shorter prices that you'll get interesting charts. They'll be able to give you some sort of indication as to things that are going on. And being able to zoom in and out and actually scroll back and have a look at areas of interest are one of the many key features. But if you click on the charting option there, the settings, then you can see you can set up as many different charts as you like. But you can also go onto the forum and download example charts and lots of different ways of plotting that information. And you can create them in many different ways. You can create multiple panes, multiple indicators. You can import your own information. You can do many, many things. I'm not going to spend too much time on it, but what I'm saying to you here is check it out, because this gives you full flexibility and the ability to plot information that's interesting to you on a chart. And you can do all sorts of clever things with them, and they are definitely worth exploring. So I hope that's given you some useful insight. When you're looking at charting, it can tell you what is going on within the market and give you a hint as to where the market is about to go. But of course, you know, it's never going to be a slam dunk thing. It's going to be, you're going to look at the market, you're going to make a judgment on whether you can see anything there. And always remember that if you look at the market and it makes no sense to you, you don't have to trade it. You can just look at it and say, well, Peter said this, Peter said that, but I can't see anything here. I just don't do anything. That's a great way of avoiding a loss very often. So what you're looking for is you're looking for clues, you're looking for evidence. And when these things happen that I've just described, then that gives you a firm nudge in one particular direction. And, you know, if you sit and wait for these situations to occur, you will find them. They occur on a very, very regular basis. These are repeating patterns that I've seen continuously every year for the last 20 plus years. But also bear in mind that, you know, don't try and transplant a chart onto a market. The market needs to provide the opportunity. So if you get a really competitive handicap, the charts, you know, aren't going to give you a good read on what's going on, because really nobody knows what's going on in that market. Nobody can really make a decision on who's going to win it. And so the signal that you get there is very weak. However, if you get a novice or a maiden race, for example, those markets are always very volatile, and that makes it perfect for charting. So always make sure you assess the market in terms of how much is it likely to move, what movement are you seeing, and that makes the charting much more valuable. But if the market's a bit of a mess and there's no particular firm direction within it, then it's significantly less valuable. But like I said, you don't have to trade it. Anyhow, I hope that video has been useful for you.